Welcome to the Ricky Matthews Show from the Citizens Bank Studio. Hope you're having a great day as we continue to celebrate so many people working so hard to make this such a great place to live, work, and play. Hey, listen, in the second half of the show, have an old friend of this show coming to join me, Dr. Nicholas Conger. Been a while since Conger's been on the show, but listen, Nick and I we got to know each other. We became very good friends, first name basis, over the years of COVID, and he just gave terrific advice to look back on the concerns and conversations that we had, what he brought to the table, just really, really good. But today, actually, we're going to be diving into two health risks that one you've heard about for sure. The other, unless you're sort of an outdoorsman, maybe you don't know about it. But we're going to talk about Vibrio and that bacteria's impact on food and water, and what we've been hearing recently. He's been at the epicenter of that, so it ought to be great to hear about that. And then we're going to talk about toxoplasmosis, which is a parasite that is in undercooked game, especially deer heart. There's a growing trend to eat deer hearts for people who enjoy the outdoors. And he's going to talk about what the impact is if you get that parasite. And so ought to be a great conversation. So let's shift gears now. First, as usual, I like to bring my buddy Hunter Dawkins from the Gazebo Gazette. He's a contributor to SuperTalk Mississippi News. He actually he's involved in Gulfport football. And so we're actually going to have a little bit of fun. We're going to not have serious conversations today. We can talk about Gulfport to some extent. We'll get up to speed on Southern Miss, which he covers, and also the Saints, which he also covers. So without any further ado, let me welcome my friend Hunter back to the Ricky Matthews Show. Hunter, how you doing, my friend?
How are you, Ricky? As you see, I'm in studio here, center here. I'm all over the place. And so just like, I know you like to tell people that I definitely am all over the place. That's initially where I set up too here. So
you're literally at the SuperTalk Mississippi media offices in Gulfport.
Yes, sir. That's correct. I have an interview with Coach Blake Pinnock, Gulfport High's football coach here, in about 30, 40 minutes. So, yes, sir.
Good for you. Well, so, tell people what you do for people who don't listen to 103.1 for Gulfport games. It's a place they can listen. So tell us about your role and your team.
Well, as you probably would like to realize, too, with the 103.1 covers Ocean Springs for SuperTalk. SuperTalk obviously has two football stations down here on the coast. As you know, they have, I believe, something around 28 radio stations covering all high school football throughout Mississippi. But here on the coast, 103.1 covers Ocean Springs, and I myself am the main host of the Gulfport High Football Network on G 96.7 every Friday night, 6:30. Myself and Harold Rose, who's the play-by-play, every pregame starts at 6:30. Wherever Gulfport is in the United States, that's where we're usually there, and we bring the Comrex and we get everything going, and 6:30, and then usually whatever time the game's done, we do about a 5-minute pregame or post game, but that's usually it.
Thanks for correcting me. Of course, I knew that. I just get 103.1 SuperTalk in my brain. It's hard to get it out, but it's one of the benefits of having so many radio stations across the state of Mississippi. To be able to do radio casts of so many high school games across the state of Mississippi, and what that information feeds in to the SuperTalk Mississippi News effort. So you can go to supertalk.fm or to the SuperTalk Mississippi app and get more information. But listen,
Ricky,
you and Harold have made it going. Yeah.
Before you go, Ricky, I don't mean to interrupt you, but what Lance and Caleb up there with SuperTalk do, the high school scoreboard, and Will East, who's the main person responsible for being that director of that scenario, they do a fantastic job every Friday night. They're there until late hours reporting all the scores for SuperTalk. So if you ever need anything, and it's not only that, it's on supertalk.fm. They have all the scores throughout the state, because of all the connection with the stations and all the connections, at least to individuals who call in the show, 100%. That's the best show to find out any high school scoreboard information, and I tell everybody that too, to make sure to check that out.
Yeah, listen, I think it's a great point. Every week I go into great detail about where we are at SuperTalk Mississippi as it relates to the news effort. We talk about the SuperTalk news team and the fact that their audio goes to the 25 radio stations that are part of SuperTalk Mississippi Media, but also go to another 25 plus. I think they're up to 52 radio stations across the state of Mississippi. What that ends up equaling, this SuperTalk news effort that goes to those stations owned by SuperTalk Mississippi Media and the other stations, is they have all these news tips that flow in from every corner of this state. It's pretty amazing. And by the way, as a publisher now at the Gazebo Gazette, and me being a former publisher of the Sun Herald, I have deep appreciation, as I know you do too, what it takes to do a score roundup just along the coast. Can you imagine that effort across the state of Mississippi? So it's a massive undertaking. And they do such a great job of that. For people who have not paid attention to the news effort for SuperTalk Mississippi News, go to supertalk.fm and check it out for yourself. I think you'll be glad you did. What else were you going to say about that, Hunter?
It's just pretty much the summary of it. 103.1 usually has a coverage of the high school sports network, at least on Friday nights, or if not, going to supertalk.fm, which it keeps up with all of the high school football scores in the state of Mississippi. Great stuff.
Yeah, really good stuff. How's it feel to do the games with Harold? You enjoying that?
Absolutely. Harold and I have a pretty good relationship, as he's been a teacher and a coach at West Harrison for, literally for the last, 15, 20 years that I've known him. But that being said, Harold and I had a pretty good relationship that we built up, before I actually asked him. I asked him to come on the show with me and to start this process. And, he was kind of getting close to his retirement years and teaching pretty soon, which I know he tells myself and Kyle that he's going to retire each and every year, but he keeps up with that volleyball, because he's one of the volleyball coaches at West Harrison. He loves it and he sticks with it, and he loves football too. So.
Well, I know it helps for you, by the way, the fact that you cover the Saints, you cover Southern Mississippi, and you played football, and you had a good run there. But it really helps to have that experience, doesn't it?
Yeah, it really does, especially from the back and forth with Harold being the play-by-play. It's great because I can provide color in talking about the plays and the actual schemes and strategies of what the coaches are, because I've also known the coaches, because as you know, Ricky, I coached for close to 10 years, a little bit in Mississippi, but a lot in Louisiana and a little bit in Tennessee too.
So what are you seeing in the Gulfport High team this year?
Well, it's a lot of back and forth. They haven't played as many games because they've had a bye week early on in the season. But they have a good, solid foundation. The main thing is Cooper Crosby. He's the excuse me. He's the running back that they have that is a Louisiana Lafayette commit right now, but he got offered from Cincinnati the other day too, and he's one of the few people that I've seen that he's grown a little bit, and his speed has gotten better. It's not, from running back position, you think that you add some muscle that it's going to hurt you as far as from the speed depth, and he has gotten faster than just adding more weight on. So
yeah, that's good. I mean, it's fun to watch those individual players, the way they grow in high school, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. That's something that I grew up on, following. First, when I became the first publisher, as you remember, Ricky, having that high school staff at the Sun Herald was great. Having Doug Barber, Jim Mashik, James Jones, and all those guys. they got into that. They got involved in the people's lives, the coaches' lives, the players' lives, and that was something that made the Sun Herald so strong back in the day with having that perfect high school coach.
Yeah, they were so good. And Doug, man, he stood the test of time over a lot of years. What a dedicated employee he was, and the others as well. I mean, it's hard to single them out, but Doug was in that role for so darn long and had so much passion for it. And it was great to have people like that, because it takes a long time. If you're going to be great at it, you got to have great relationships with all the head coaches. You got to have good relationships with the teams and administrators and all of that. And that takes time, and you got to develop that over time. Otherwise, what happens is your readers start to think you're leaning toward one team versus another team. And, people sense that stuff. But he was great at really sort of taking the global view of coastal Mississippi. For sure, Doug Barber, what a terrific high school sports leader he was. Okay, when we get back on the other side, we're going to continue our conversation with Hunter Dawkins. We're going to talk about Southern Miss and the Saints. We'll see you after this. Welcome back to the Ricky Matthews Show. Just as a reminder, coming up in the next segment, the third and last segment, but starting next segment, we have Dr. Nicholas Conger going to join me. And among other things, we're going to talk about Vibrio and what that situation is all about. You've been hearing more about it. So I'm looking forward to our old friend, Nicholas Conger, a great infectious disease doctor here on the coast, joining me for the show. Okay. We're visiting with Hunter Dawkins, who is a SuperTalk Mississippi contributor. He's the publisher and owner of the Gazebo Gazette here. And he does color for the games on one of SuperTalk's channel, G97, correct? Am I remembering that correctly?
96.7.
96.7. That's even when I said it didn't sound right. Okay, so Hunter, let's shift gears. Southern Miss, you and I talked about it, getting a new coach and so many new players and a new culture, a new excitement, everything. Even in that first game that they didn't win, there was signs of hope. But you feel the buy-in, you feel the excitement building. You see the fans going to the games, and it's good to see, isn't it, my friend?
It is, Ricky. Now, one of the things I will tell you, and I think, and of course, Coach Huff didn't really mention this or anything as such from that. I didn't see a lot of fans in the last game, the Appalachian State game, which was a very important game for Southern because that was the first conference game they won in over a year and a half. And that was an important game. They took the step in the right direction in the conference play because a lot of teams in the conference play have had a little bit of mishaps. For instance, Louisiana lost their quarterback, Walker Howard, who was supposed to help them achieve a championship level type team. And then there's been some problems, at least with Arkansas State and other things. And you, as Southern Miss fans, you want to be able to take that and go with it. But the only two games where I've seen a large number of attendance were in the state game and the Jackson State. Now, of course, I understand because Southern Miss has not had a successful team in the last 5 years other than going to a bowl game once. They haven't had a routine, consistent success. Therefore, I understand that there are problems, at least the fans are not exactly too sure about the culture that Huff is trying to build. But I can assure you, this coach is trying to put it together, and he's going to do everything he can. As a matter of fact, in the press conference, he said, Southern Miss will never be like they used to be as long as I'm the head coach. And so that's a certain message right there.
Hey, man, he brought credibility and integrity and a track record to the table. So when he says that, he really does mean it. Yeah, I saw the dip in fans for this past game, and they might have thought Appalachian State, of course, we're going to win the game. But I actually went back and studied how Appalachian State has done, and listen, that's been a good football team.
if they were not the first drive of the game, Ricky, they drove the ball down the field and were going to put the ball in the end zone, and pretty much then, because of luck and how things happen, there was an interception in the back corner of the end zone. Then the next drive, Appalachian came down and scored again. Then Southern turned, they punted the ball back to them. Appalachian State then drove down again, and then there was the one of the craziest interceptions I've ever seen in my life, where the guy catches the ball and pretty much flips it to the defensive back Ian Foster, who got a lot of big national accolades this week. Returned it 99 yards for a touchdown. And then Southern Miss was trying to kind of put on the pedal at that point. But that was a game that I think that Southern Miss really needed more than any of the other two games. Now, I'm not saying that winning a game in Jackson State didn't need to happen, or winning or at least putting up good effort against Mississippi State didn't need to happen. But from a conference team, that game, Appalachian State, was a must-needed, game. And that being said, they needed that. That was something. Not only did the team need that, Huff needed that to be able to move the team in the right direction and have the belief, the culture, the identity of the team really fill out, and everybody's starting to believe. You can even see, Ricky, on Twitter, there was a celebration in the locker room because they were relieved that finally they were jumping the cord and headed in the right direction.
Well, what's so awesome about it? Of course, we've been studying and talking about Huff. We know Joe Paul's been high on him, but we've all been high on him because we saw what he did previously. And, whatever that contractual problem was with Marshall that led to us being able to get him, so glad that it happened, because what landed here is a guy who could be a long-term play for us. And he's a motivator. The community's excited about him. And what I noticed immediately, listen, if you look back in the last couple of years with Southern Miss, they were missing the fundamentals, buddy. I know that, you've written about it. You understood it. They were missing the passes. They were fumbling the ball. They couldn't, they weren't catching the passes. And when they could catch the passes, they weren't getting the ball to the playmakers. And, there were breakdowns on the defensive side of the ball. Now what you see, you've got a quarterback who believes in the system, who's mobile, who's got a good arm, people who can actually catch the ball. You've got a defense that's just creating turnovers. All these things are starting to play in their favor. And if you think about all the new players at the table, Hunter, combined with the new coaching staff and everything that they've had to do, for them to be building this head of steam through 3 games is a really, really speaking well for if they can continue to do that for the rest of the season. It's exciting to watch.
One word equals out this change in the program: discipline. Charles Huff brought in discipline first. That was through different steps, with the food nutrition, the building of the team together in camaraderie, putting those little each and every step together. But as he told me on the media days in New Orleans, he said, Hunter, without discipline, we can't make this thing happen. And that was sure enough something that he's changed. And whether, I'm not saying one coach was different from the next, but him bringing in that really has helped change the culture. And like I said, it was the luck of a draw winning that game against Appalachian from the first drive and on. But that discipline mentality really set the standards for the team. And I'm looking for a lot more success this year for Southern Miss.
Yeah, I'll say it. I think this coach makes a huge difference. We haven't seen a coach like this at Southern Miss in a long time, with all due respect to the others, because they were all good men and they brought great angles to the dangle. But the reality of Huff is he's the complete coach, and he's got a track record. He knows how to win. He knows how to motivate kids. He knows how to use the transfer portal. He to the extent that they've been able to build the collective, they've done that. So this team is moving in the right direction, and it's going to surprise some teams this year. Hey, before we get off, we got about 2 minutes left. I want to make sure we talk about the Saints. I haven't given up on them, but it's about what a lot of people, and I have Jeff Duncan on, It's about what he expected. We're going to win a couple of games this year. We're going to lose a lot of games this year. Talking about fundamentals, we're missing some fundamentals right now, aren't we, Hunter?
Well, the first off, in my mind, the Saints' biggest problem is not necessarily the draft picks, not because a new coach brings in new thoughts and ideas. It's somewhere that you need to be more focused on. And from the quarterback perspective, everybody's going to say things about Spencer did this, and this Shuck should have been in here, this, that, and the other. I like the way that platform's going, at least offensively. The biggest problem is that our receivers. We don't have a number one receiver. We don't have somebody that you can rely on. We don't have a Marcus Colston, a Joe Horn, a Michael Thomas at his best. We don't have that reliable receiver. We have Olave, who's been hurt, but he doesn't really seem like himself anymore. And then I'm not really even sure the names of any of the other guys. Ricky, I follow the Saints, and I don't even know some of the names of some of these guys. Defensively, we're okay from the front seven. The problem then is afterwards you're relying too much on Kool-Aid McKinstry, on Jonathan Reed to get these guys to be able to take up the slack for the whole secondary. You just can't. Receivers and secondary are the two principal areas I think the Saints need to be focused on, or else they win both of those games.
Hey, you look at some of the metrics. We got tons of metrics today, but Spencer. I mean, people won't like hearing this, but Spencer graded out pretty darn high. I mean, he did really. Yeah, so through the games he's played, he's in the middle of the pack, and in some respects, he's actually better. Some of the names that I would mention that he's better than, you would blow people's minds. So it's a lot about play calls. It's maybe playing a little too safe with Spencer. There's a lot that has to happen, but they're still putting it all together. It's a small sample size, and we'll see where it goes from here. But Hunter, we're out of time. It's been a pleasure to spend some time with you, my friend.
Always good, Ricky. Anytime I can, be with you guys on the network, it's always a good day.
You bet. Dr. Nicholas Conger when we come back.